Alright guys, this is I'm back on YouTube. I'm currently putting videos private and doing reaction videos now. Never thought I'd be reacting, but I've been advised that this is the route to go. And we will be reacting to the PBD podcast as I woke up, and it got quite political pretty early, around 7 a.m. West Coast Pacific time.
Ben Shapiro said this because Ben also said in 2021
this individual looks like a very serious man.
People voting for Trump is because the left media keeps putting him out there, and they keep giving him more and more and more and more heat, which pisses off the voters, which makes them want to vote more.
This is on people like you that already have this vote. Listen to this off.
What I was getting at is that this, what he said here, and I love Ben Shapiro, I'm a huge Ben Shapiro
There's a
fan.
few people you can't talk bad about because their fans are intense. Ben Shapiro, cause I blank. Gary Vee.
I could care less about him and all those guys at CNN. The point is this, that Don Lemon, he tells them, you guys keep doing this, and that's why he keeps getting attention.
And there's one other person on that list.
And it's a bad strategy. He's telling them as he's being interviewed on CNN. So it's kind of.
But what about what he's saying now, though?
That's just weird for him to switch up like that because it's a switch up.
Sentiment can change,
They can,
right?
but I think it's a switch up. I think what Pat's saying is right. I think they're scared of him.
Yeah, this individual Patrick is quite interesting. He's previously owned insurance companies.
Because when I sat down with him in 18, Ben said, I asked him about Biden. He says Biden's going to be the next president. He said that in 18 when I sat down with him at the Daily Wire headquarters when they were out.
So what I would like is a giant movement to every time that these Republican Democrat debates go on, where we smash into these people's minds. The executive office is done. We're going back to the 60s. We're replacing community leaders in the Senate and the Congress.
You kind of have to pay attention to some of this stuff, and nobody's 100%.
And there never will be another president. And that's most likely their objective.
I'm not saying that you believe the poll numbers, but let's just play a game here. And you see the unfavorable ratings around Trump, and you see the favorable ratings that are trending in DeSantis' direction. Why wouldn't you just embrace? Let me finish. Hold on. Why wouldn't you just embrace someone like a DeSantis and get around him?
Oh, 100%. 100%. I just don't think he's gonna run.
What do you?
What? I don't think this. Did he say he's out or he's gonna run?
I think it's trending in that direction. If you see these polls that he's already beating Trump.
But the thing is, here's the thing you gotta remember too. So I said on my following on my Instagram when I talk to people, so many people have flipped. I got people that are like, bro, I hated you 4 years ago. I've been following you. I've been watching all your stuff, and everything you said was true. I can show you messages of people that are like, I can finally understand what you're talking about. That hated Trump. That said Trump's racist, Trump's this, and I was like, bro, everything you said was right. And I'm getting those messages every single day of the year. I'm not even joking. I'm not exaggerating one bit. So when I read this, I'm like, that's it.
So you trust your own Instagram polls more than Quinnipiac or NBC?
I'm having conversations. This is apart from obviously what I do with PHP. This is the world I'm fully in it. Like I'm in it all the way. I'm part of being led with Lexit. When I go speak at the Republican Women's Republican, I've spoken to 2 or 3 of them. We're going to be speaking one next month. Those rooms are getting bigger and bigger for people that were ex-Democrats.
80-year-old women invite him to be the guest speaker.
Yes.
Very weird.
Golf, what is it called? Golf court, not the golf, the
course.
No, country clubs.
Country club.
And these are rich
Well, listen, there is a new thing with older rich women going after young hot Latino dudes, bro. That's the thing.
It's all good. And shout out to my wife. So you better shout out. You're in trouble when you get home. But the point is this, so shout out, babe. But the point is this, here's what I'm getting at, bro. Those rooms are getting fuller and fuller every time I go. And when I'm meeting them, because they walk me around. And it doesn't fail that 50% of I don't want to say 50, that'd be exaggerating. 30% of the room, they're like, I used to vote Democrat, and now I'm a Republican.
And this is in Bakersfield, California?
In the most,
Where is that?
Bakersfield, there's Bakersfield, Central Valley, and Kern County.
Cali.
And Kern County is one of the only conservative counties in
But even if 100% of the room was like, all right, I'm with you, Ricky, you're still not going to flip California, bro. And I respect what you're doing, 100%, but it's almost like a fruitless endeavor.
But we're talking about the polls. I'm not talking about flipping California. I'm talking about what you're saying there. What I'm seeing boots on the ground is not the same whatever that bullshit is. I'm not saying.
There it is. From now on, we're going to put Quinnipiac Quinnipiac, all right, Pew, and then Ricky's Instagram polls at the top of the list. Done.
But I think that really quick, there's two things that we're discounting here. Trump hasn't been on Twitter since what, 2018,
That's true.
2020? What happens when he gets, what happens if Elon Musk buys Twitter and reinstates Trump, and Trump is now tweeting daily?
Well, that's
How
how
many
he
people-
chooses to go back on Twitter and not embrace Truth Social.
It's
which
far
is-
fetched, right? But let's say Trump gets his voice back. How many people does he turn off? And secondly, let's say turn off, because
Not
he's
off.
now tweeting daily again, which the whole big spiel was no more mean tweets, right? People, fuck the policies, no more mean tweets. Okay. Secondly, let's not forget what Trump did to everybody in the debates. Destroyed everybody in the debates. He called Ted Cruz's wife a dog. I mean,
Yeah.
just went
Little,
off, right?
little Marco Rubio,
Right. So
either Jeb Bush, whatever, low energy, what does he call him?
right. So
Called
how
Lindsey Graham a lesbian, basically,
If-
all that.
let's say that Trump and DeSantis go at it, right? And he now starts going to ad hominem attacks on Ron DeSantis and wins the primary.
Which
Let's say
he
beats-
will, by the way. Which he will.
I think it's up for debate. He will do the ad hominem attacks on Ron DeSantis. How many independent voters has he now turned
Yeah,
off?
he's gonna lose.
Because he calls Ron DeSantis' wife a dog or calls him ugly or
Yeah.
what have you.
I
Know
know.
how ugly that's going to get.
Yeah.
How many independent voters does he now turn off? How many people that he's flipped does he now turn off? Those
Yeah.
80-year-old women, they're saying, I'm a big fan of Trump, and they see this
Yeah,
nonsense.
you're right. It's a very interesting perspective. It's not far fetched. Very correct.
So my take is
Mhm.
he's 76 right now, Donald Trump. He'll be 78 going into the election. I think my crystal ball is that I see his family paying a price,
Bro.
taking a toll.
We have to uprise. We have 80-year-olds
I see him
telling us what to do.
Yeah.
80-year-old white men.
I see him
Bro,
aligning himself.
it's never
with
gonna
Ron
happen.
DeSantis. I see.
I'll die in the
Ron
street
DeSantis
before I allow this to
more
happen.
Youthful, younger, has a little bit more energy. The reality is, if anybody was to go back into office and take over Biden's presidency right
Bro, I'm
now,
taking
just
fucking
undo the
motherfuckers
executive
with me.
office, executive orders, rescind them, we'd be basically hitting the reset button. We'd be better off for that.
Mhm.
So, I think Donald Trump
Executive
is probably
orders?
had way
Is this
too much
PepsiCo?
baggage at that
Is this
point.
Nike?
He himself is even
No, these are
recognized.
people living in a country.
I think it's one thing for him to take the hit, but I think now, as you're going to see things come through the funnel, and some of his kids and some
Yeah.
of his real people that are not his hang-ons,
Heard your
but
mic.
really his blood, I think
My
he's
video's
going
back
to take
online.
a bit of a digression and step back.
So you don't think he's going to run, is what you're saying?
I think it's going to pay. I think it's going to take a heavy toll on him, and not the price of his children.
You're basically saying he'd be better served not trying to be the king, but the kingmaker.
Yes, sir.
But that's not in his DNA. He
Well-
views himself as the number one, as the king. And it's going to be hard.
There are no kings anymore.
76, 78.
Well,
To
he's
just flip a script and just say, you know what?
But
I don't want to be the man anymore.
but
I have a
here's-
hard time believing
And
it.
here's something interesting. We talk about the personal vindictiveness.
If you have a king, then you have a slave. So we don't do kings
that
anymore.
would not be willing to go over to Ron DeSantis, even though if they
We
were
do
equal,
congressional
the
bodies
results
that make
would be the
laws,
same.
and we put
But they'd
ourselves.
rather hang on to Trump because they want to see him get his revenge.
We don't ask politicians for jobs. We give ourselves the job of a congressman.
Let's just say-
And then you're gonna have 36-year-olds with the associate's degrees making six
foresee
figures.
That the results, if DeSantis gets in or Trump gets in, we're all going to be better.
Yeah.
But there would be more Trump supporters to say, I want to see Trump get in because I want to see him pay these people back.
Yeah.
You know
Well,
what I'm
that's the
saying?
revenge factor.
The revenge
Big thing in the
factor.
movies. Who would you vote for out of those two?
I like Donald Trump for the very reason that he's got that moxie and that he is no nonsense in your face. Now, with that being said, I think he's the type of person that is hard to control and hard to rein in. But I like him for getting results. He's result driven.
Last one for you, bro. If you were his lawyer,
I got one more
hard
thought about
to rein in, what advice would you give to Trump if you were his lawyer?
So
He gave it right off the bat. I don't know if you caught it.
Yeah,
No, so I'm asking, circling back to that.
He gave it right off.
Look, listen. I have clients. I tell each and every client that comes into the office, my job is to ensure and make sure you don't drive off that cliff. That's why you're paying me you're hiring me to prevent you from driving off that cliff. And if you're insistent in driving off that cliff, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm bailing on you. I'm getting out of that car, and you can drive off that cliff by yourself. I'm not your guy. A lot of people look at me like, what do you mean? You have to have that ability. A good lawyer has to have control. Donald Trump is impossible to control because he believes in his own little way he knows more than anybody. He does. He believes that. And when you deal with someone who believes that, it's impossible to get them to take your advice. Just as I said when he went on Sean Hannity last night, he said things that I even gasped at. He talked about a form that's a page and a half. If you remember, he talked about this page and a half of a disclaimer form where his company puts it out and they put everybody on notice. Well, let me be honest with you. The government, Department of Justice, they got that going right now, and they have a transcription person that's transcribing that interview because he better make sure that everything he said to Sean Hannity does in fact play out. As a lawyer, I would say, Donald, do me a favor, keep your mouth shut, take a back seat. But,
You go round and round in circles. I wish you would listen to someone like you. I wish.
well,
Not gonna happen.
No, it's not going to happen. Last thing here before we wrap up, Putin. You guys saw the story about Putin with the back and forth with the threat about nuclear, and then Biden also coming back when they were both speaking. I want to read this and kind of get your commentary and we'll wrap up. So, Putin initiates a conscription to bolster military invasion at the Ukraine counteroffensive. Russia President Vladimir Putin announced a partial mobilization of Russia, which will require citizens to join the war effort in Ukraine. It's a fully adequate to the threats we face, namely to protect our homeland, its sovereignty and territorial integrity, to ensure the security of our people and people in the liberated territories. We are talking about partial mobilization. That is, only citizens who are currently in the reserve will be subject to conscription, and above all, those who serve in the armed forces have a certain military specialty and relevant experience. And he warns the West, threat to resort to nuclear weapons. This is not a bluff. Putin issued a warning after accusing Western countries of resorting to nuclear blackmail despite no NATO countries threatening to use nuclear weapons. To those who allow themselves such statements regarding Russia, I want to remind you, and he's only talking about one person, by the way, that our country also has various means of destruction. And for separate and more modern than those of NATO countries. And when the territorial integrity of our country is threatened, to protect Russia and our people, we will certainly use all the means at our disposal. It's not a bluff. The threat comes as Russia's prospects in Ukraine are grim, with Putin's military losing thousands of square miles of territory to a Ukrainian counteroffensive. And by the way, he's saying this. This is my idea with this. You know, we've talked about this before. What'd you say? I'll kick your ass. Say that again. Look what I'm going to do to you. Maybe you can get away with it once, twice, three. Keep doing that. People are going to be like, dude,
shut up.
do something, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So now, to flip that, is people are moving out of Russia at a record-breaking rate. So earlier we were talking about, you're saying, tell me one other country that's getting the most people. I wanted to kind of talk about this. I said, let's just wrap up Mar-a-Lago conversation.
Germany?
They're leaving Russia.
No, but I'm saying they're going into Germany.
They're going all over the place, but they're just leaving Russia. They're worried, okay? Like when we lived in Iran, the war was
always
going on.
forget to do this.
This could get, our families were just worried about the safety of the kids. So people were leaving, no matter where they get a chance to go to, they're just leaving. So he's in a very tough situation. So now, you go and look at Pearl Harbor, and then what happened, FDR, and then Truman goes and calls it, and here, let's go do this and drop it, and hey, we saw what happened to, Hiroshima. Do you take his threat as a bluff, or do you take it as this guy's got his back so much against the wall right now that if there is a guy that would do it, it would be him?
I think he should be taken seriously, but I do believe
I don't think it's him. I think it's us.
arrest within his own within
Oh
his
yeah,
own country.
that's what we. That's
Gonna
another
be
thing.
his ultimate downfall, meaning his own people are turning on him and are going to continue to rise up. I think that's where NATO, and especially with the United States, having their allies work on the Russian population to expose him for being just who he is, a madman, I think eventually will back him down and eventually create his downfall. Now, with that being said, the reality is, right now, with him having the ability to push a button, you know, unfortunately, Ukraine, there's not much to destroy there, right? I mean, it's basically a vast wasteland. I mean, he's destroyed basically the entire country. With respect to using...
Playing from John's
My
iPhone.
biggest concern, honestly, is not his ability to carry out that threat. My biggest concern to myself and to my family and to my fellow Americans is honestly, what would be the response if God help us all if he was to implement a nuclear attack? Because we all know what will happen if he doesn't. Well, we can anticipate what would happen. My biggest concern is what's the response? Because once you light that fuse, we may be looking at a completely different world than we've ever known before.
You know the difference between the button in U.S. versus Russia? Have you seen that article? Okay, so you know in the U.S. the button is controlled by one person. He can't push the button. He needs multiple approvals in Russia. So Russia's situation is not like, what'd you say? Boom. That's U.S. That's not what it is in Russia. So that gives a little bit of comfort to say you have to convince 3 or 5 people, whatever the amount of people is, for them to say, we agree that it's time to push the button. So I think for the world that's a little bit worried, it's good that Russia's button to the nuclear bomb is a lot more regulated, believe it or not, as weird as it sounds, than the button in the US. Now,
You remember what Tate had to say about this?
no.
You asked Tate this question. Exactly. You said you live in Romania, border of Ukraine, you're seeing this happening, and this going on Madrid doing the interview with Tate, and obviously we didn't talk about Putin for an extended period of time throughout that interview. But basically, you brought up the term madman, and he goes, I know that term gets thrown around a lot. Putin's a madman, he's crazy. And he goes, no, I think he's actually a rational actor, but he is there to serve his country, Mother Russia. He's not worried about global agendas or poll numbers. He's there for one reason only, to take a term from your president, make Russia great again. So I don't think he's a madman. I think he's a rational actor. I don't think he wants to blow up the world. I don't think he wants to do that. At the same time, what I do think he has is a massive ego, and I think he needs an off-ramp to save face. Right now, he's not winning this war in Ukraine. You know, the EU, United States, is throwing billions of dollars to prop up Ukraine and fight Russia, and they're doing it a good job of it. And I think if you're Putin, and if you're the world, and you want a safe world,
Customer service.
I understand you would like to speak to an agent. I will get you over to the next available agent. We were unable to locate the account using the phone number you are calling from.
Ooh, that's not good.
Please enter or say the 10-digit phone number associated with your login.gov account. You said 214.
Yes.
Save your place in line and call you back when an agent is available. Press 1.
want to give at least Putin an opportunity to not look weak and to save face, and give him an off-ramp so he doesn't do anything illogical and he maintains the rational actor status.
Hello, are you still there?
Yes. Put somebody on the phone with me immediately. I demand it. You're a government agency. Put a person on the phone.
Sorry, I didn't get that. Did you ask your question in a different way?
Put a person on the phone. Customer service.
I understand you would like to speak to an agent. I will get you over to the next available agent. An FSB agent will be with you momentarily. This call will be recorded for quality assurance and training purposes. All FSB agents are assisted.
Yeah, Hope. Who do you work for? Sorry, say it one more time. Federal Service Desk, got you. So I'm not sure if my SAM registration is still up to date because we've been getting quite a bit of phone calls and mail about it. But irregardless, my question today is revolving around contracts based out of two different countries. I wanted to know the website, so not sam.gov, but what would be the website for, let's just start with Russia. So Russia's version of sam.gov.
Okay, I'll be happy to assist you with locating our partner site. Could you go ahead and verify your email address for me?
I don't think it's necessary. Not the partner, just the version is just maybe I'm being confusing. So we have sam.gov here, right? And you register that as a business owner. And we've done that in the past, but the question is, what is Russia's version?
I'll be happy to assist you there. I have to verify some information for my ticket first. When you call into Sam, it automatically pays the
Okay, my email is tim.cook@apple.com. Or sorry, at iCloud.com.
Could you verify your telephone number for me?
Yeah, it's 214-635-6500. I don't think a ticket should be made over this question. It's very simple. What's Russia's sam.gov website?
I have to pay the ticket as every call that is requested in FSD.gov.
When you say you have to, that is very dangerous. I'm not gonna stop you from creating a ticket, but that is my sincere effort in helping you. I could walk out with all my rights as American and have to do things.
Take as though his DNA, because of where he came from, is all about deception and killing and murder, KGB, and poisoning and
Of course.
doing things,
And accidentally jumping out of a window.
doing the most barbaric things.
Of course.
I think that's his DNA. And look, Madman is someone who's crazy. I think he's very calculated.
No doubt.
No question. Very smart, very calculated. My fear is because of his DNA, he does not have the ability to think beyond himself. Meaning that, just as Patrick said, there's a layer that insulates him from getting to that button. My concern would be he'll start knocking off those people and putting in people in their place to ultimately get to that button.
Who's a bigger E?
I don't want to waste my day, ma'am. Is it possibly, maybe I would understand because I don't even know the website. Maybe you don't know the website?
You have to research. You have to go ahead and look and see how they registered their organizations in their country. We only have. I can only provide you with a list of partner websites for the U.S. government. I don't have access to their database or.
Well, don't try to gain access to their database. Just if we have an agreement that sam.gov is a website, right? What's Russia's version?
I'm unsure.
Could you ask a supervisor? Because it doesn't. I mean, if I was in my first year, I wouldn't know either. But maybe I mean it seems like a question somebody would know. It's a four letter website, Sam. Or 3-letter website, Sam. Just looking for that version. So maybe it's Pam. I'm sincerely confused. You said you were the federal desk, right?
Yes, this is the Federal Services. I can go ahead and search for some additional information for you. But we only have a list of our partner services in the U.S. government, as I'm unfamiliar with other countries' government.
Does that seem strange that the government of the United States would not know the website for another government as large as Russia? And we could pick any other country. I'm just so you. My goal would be to register a business there. It seems odd to me. It seems like the federal desk would know that, as it would be crucial for our country to know that.
Okay, so
Maybe you could just tell me who I would call to ask, and that would make your day easier.
okay, just 1 second for me while I locate some additional information.
Okay, thanks.
Bill Maniac, Putin or Trump?
Well, look, you see Trump in front of the camera a lot.
It's the same thing, man. It's the same people.
So that may just be.
Well, and we're all assuming that this is a big nuclear weapon. He has targeted nuclear weapons. He can launch very small nuclear attacks and create mass devastation. And listen, I don't think he's a madman. I think he's very calculated. But we are pushing him. Imagine how frustrated he has to be that he can't take over Ukraine. Because, like Adam said, we're sending 50, 60, 70, 80, $100 billion. What do you think he's going to do? It's no secret that we are fighting a proxy war against Russia on behalf of Ukraine. What do you expect him to do?
So what happens when you?
We've fallen victim to
What happens?
about
Bully goes home.
50 to
goes into his
100
farm's gets out his
corporations.
assault rifle, puts it in his backpack, and comes to school the next day and say, "Okay, here's the great equalizer," and that's what we see in these mass shootings. And so be careful pushing Putin into that corner because that's what they have.
That's the key. That's not him being a bad man. That's not him being crazy. That's our problem. We did this. We set this up. This is our fault.
This is why I'm saying we need to give him an off ramp and the opportunity to at least save face and not look weak.
There was a question by Hannity yesterday by Putin, and he says, "What does Putin behind closed doors? I got Putin to not want to attack Ukraine." He says, "I can't tell you that. That's between me and him in the conversation." But we did have a respectable. I don't know if you caught that one part. Yeah. So the diplomacy is different. You know, like in insurance, like I've been in the sales organization for the last 20 years. There are guys, very few guys are good at two things. There are guys that are stage. Very good from stage. And it makes you believe they're better one-on-one, but they suck one-on-one. Suck one-on-one. They're good stage, right? So there's 3 levels to their stage. There's group setting UN5, and there's one-on-one, okay? And then there are those guys that are very good one-on-one, but they suck on stage. I used to think the guy on stage would build the biggest business, but it's the guy that was the best at one-on-one that built the biggest business because he knew how to get things done and he would move things forward.
That is
So
interesting.
The one-on-one, unfortunately, none of us can gauge because there is no camera on one-on-one. So we don't know how Biden is one-on-one. We don't know how Trump is one-on-one. But obviously, when Trump was doing one-on-one, nothing was happening. ISIS disappeared. Putin was calm. Nothing was going on there. So the power of the one-on-one, unfortunately, we will never be able to gauge ever because there's no cameras in the one-on-one. Having said that, quick shout out
Should
to
be.
a couple of guys that gave the super chats.
If he's an executive, there's no reason not to record his meetings.
I'm one of 7 famous Assyrians in the world. He says, make me the 8th. Because there's not too many Assyrians. My man, appreciate you. Procanthus says, what his stance is on Patriot Act. We didn't get into the Patriot Act. That's something we talked to Giuliani about. When it comes to Trump, this is Paul, $20. When it comes to Trump, the Democrats keep feeding the sick. Trump, hoping people will dance to the beat. Unfortunately, they are tone deaf, and Trump will come out victorious once again. We will see. Then we have Andrew said, Adam, yes, there is that saying, but remember, Schumer said the intelligence agencies will get you 6 ways from Sunday about Trump. Funny, it's happening now. And then we have Jason said Trump is a criminal. He is finally held to the fire, okay? And then we have Derek said, now they've changed it to hell has no fury like Adam scorned. Adam has the emotions of a woman. I'm offended by that one.
Bang, you're a woman.
Okay, gang, Tyler, do we have something this week or this is the one? And then later on today, Adam has a podcast with Ricky. If you want to be entertained, don't miss that one on.
If you want to see Ricky and fireworks, tune into Soundscast 4 p.m.
Hey, by the way,
today.
shout out to my driver Julio. I got a driver here in Florida now.
Good.
He's sick. Dominican Republic, big fan of the podcast.
I love
He's like always like he lives 2 minutes from me. I see that they see when you're
I
still
love
right
it.
here.
I love it. Well, gang, if you enjoyed Stuart as much as we did, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and hopefully we'll have him back on the podcast again, bro.
You're still working, man, or? Thank you for helping me. You've been extremely calm. I appreciate that.
If you would like the system to save your place in line and call you back when an agent is available, press 1. If you would like the system to save your place in line and call you back when an agent is available, press 1. If you would like the system to save your place in line and call you back when an agent is available, press 1. If you would like the system to save your place in line and call you back when an agent is available, press 1.
Some people are on hold.
We appreciate you for coming out. This was very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye.
Well, that's my first reaction video. Apologize if it was more entertaining.